get generational wealth, right? So, you know, one of the first things, fellas, is the fact that people think that being a Christian and having money, they don't go hand in hand. So I would like to know, right? I'm going to ask a question. There's no wrong answer. I want to see if someone else, even someone in the chat, if someone in the chat will come up with this answer also. Who can tell me, right? Who can tell me how many times, right, was money mentioned in the Bible? No takers. I'm looking at the chat.
Are you saying the word money?
Money, yes. So there's money in itself, and then there's principles around money, right? So I'm talking about money itself. About how many times do you think? Just give me, just if you were to guess, how many times do you think money was mentioned in the Bible?
Off my head, I wouldn't know that.
Jay, just give me a number. How much?
Listen, I'm going to be daring right now. I'm supposed to know this, but about over 100 times.
Okay, that's good. Actually, you're absolutely right. Right? It's actually 800 times, over 800 times. Money was actually mentioned in the Bible. Now, when you're looking at money and possessions and concepts around money, I'll let you guys take a shot at that one. Right? How many times do you think money and financial principles, right, were actually mentioned in the Bible? Al, you got to give me an answer on this.
I know that's actually throughout the Bible.
Right, throughout the Bible.
Throughout the Bible. So if we're mentioning money 800 times, then my educated guess would have to be 1,000.
Okay. Jay?
500.
500. You know what? Actually, it was over 2,000 times.
Oh.
Over 2,000 times. So why is it that God, right, mention, possessions and wealth and finances and debt, right, and savings, right? Even though back then, they weren't saving in a monetary system like we were saving today, right? But however, they were saving what? Goods, right? They were saving, when you look at Joseph, right, what Joseph did for Potiphar, right? He helped them save because they knew hard times were coming. So it's over 2,000 times that money and financial principles were actually mentioned in the Bible. So let's bring it closer to home, guys. According to a study done by the Kellogg Foundation, right, you have black households, right? We give over $11 billion a year, right? We give over $11 billion a year to churches and nonprofit organizations, right? Now, what really startled me also was the fact that guess who out of all races, right? Out of all races, right? Guess who actually give the most?
It'll have to be the black race.
Melanin folk.
Right. We actually give 25% more than whites, right? Mm-hmm. And that was a study done by the Kellogg Foundation. So jump in on that. Let's talk about that right quick. Let's talk about why do you guys think that we as a melanated people, we give so much money to nonprofits and we also give so much money to the churches?
We are actually, it's foundational principles in which we've been handed down through time.
Indoctrinated, yes.
We are constantly giving, whether we're giving to the church or we're giving to a neighbor, we're constantly giving. And actually, that is what we are supposed to do. But it's in the way now that we give, it's really not coming back to us because of who we're giving to.
Right. And we're praying people. Well, we faith has always been number one, always throughout everything. Marching is faith. I'm talking about since we were brought here, it was always faith throughout our history. Is faith, and that was tied in with that. The sacrifice. Tithes. All that stuff.
Right. Absolutely, guys. So we are a praying people. We came from our homelands with our faith, right? And now we're here in a foreign land. And sometimes the question we got to ask ourselves is like, what do we really what do we have to show for it so far? So let's jump into some statistics right quick, right? I'm going to run through some statistics which are startling, right? So when it comes to student loans, right, we have Black families, right? We carry on average about $16,000 in student loan debt. All right, I know about that firsthand because I went to two HBCUs and I came out of school. I didn't just do a bachelor's degree. I wanted to do more than that. I came out with a bachelor's, master's, and a PhD, right? And going into college, coming from I migrated to this country, and my parents didn't know too much about scholarships. They didn't know too much about scholarships. They didn't know about a lot about financial aid and how to utilize those things. So when I came out of school, with a hefty amount of student loan debt, right? Well, and here's one of the reasons why, because that's one of the things that was happening while you were in school. They were giving us these things called refund checks. You would go to school, and then while you're in school, let's say your tuition is $10,000 and your student loan is $15,000. You know what they would do? They would actually send us a check for the difference. They would send us a check for $5,000. So imagine this. Imagine college students, and this practice still happens even now. Imagine college students, right, getting a check. Me as a college student getting a check for $5,000. I was away from home, away from my parents. What do you think I was doing with that money? Right? We were spending it, and not just myself, my friends, we were living a good time. So student loan, we have a higher student loan debt. Compared to our white counterparts, we have close to over $7,000 more than our white counterpart. Here's something interesting that I found though, guys. Check this out. When it comes to credit card, right? Credit card debt. Who do you think owes more? Who do you think have more credit card debt?
Let me take a stab at this. Us?
Us? Yeah.
Us?
Yeah.
Actually, no, we don't. We actually have the least amount of credit card debt compared to the other races. We have the least.
That makes sense, Ruel. That makes sense. That makes sense.
I see. You caught me on a technical. Yeah,
he did. It makes sense, though, Ruel. It definitely makes sense because we spend liquid cash. As soon as we get it.
But here's the thing, though, right? When it comes to being negatively affected by credit card, guess who gets affected the most?
Us. That's the question. That's the question I thought.
Right.
Yeah. Good.
When it comes to declaring bankruptcy, compared to white Americans, right? We have over 6%. We declare bankruptcy. When it comes to being in collections, we have over a 30%, right? 30%. We're 30% affected negatively by collections, and our accounts go into collection, even though we have less debt, right? We have less credit card debt, but we go into collections more than other races. So we need to break this one down. Because Alan, I know, Alan and Jay, I know you guys help people when it comes to home ownership, and Jay, I know you help people when it comes to helping people start businesses. Why is it that we're finding such a disparity, even though we have less debt, but we're still affected? The effect of having that credit card debt, it hurts us more than other races.
I mean, okay, I was looking at you like double dutch. Well, from my experience, most of the stuff was it's systematic. I mean, you can't avoid that. It's systematic, and then it's a process. We weren't taught this stuff in school. We weren't taught, the financial literature. We just weren't taught, home economics for me when I was a child was making a cake. Has nothing to do with economics. But making it has nothing to do with it. And I'm sure a lot of people on here can agree with that. They learned how to do something in the kitchen as opposed to their bank account. When I turned 18, I got a Macy's card, and I didn't know. I just had a Macy's card, $500 limit. I thought I made it. You know, my mom, God bless her, she didn't know. She didn't have that. She did. Our parents did the best they could, hands down. Even then, they was limited. And what they did, they produced us. And our job is to, you know, kind of know more. And what I learned was over that, there was a gap. It was a gap in information. It was a gap in schooling. It was a gap in teaching. And so when you meet people now in 2021 who don't even understand the financial technicalities of things or how to buy a home, they don't know the principle. And then we're stuck on fear. Our people, we stuck on fear more than anything else. We say we can't before we even try. And it's just systematic.
Alan?
I'd have to agree to a certain extent. I know that with my upbringing, I did not realize that I was from a wealthy family until it was way out of my hands. We were wealthy in a sense of we didn't have any financial debt as per se. But when we came to this country in 81, we migrated from England, and we noticed right away, I noticed the way that things were being taught, even in the schools. Even though I came at 12, I already had physics, calculus, chemistry, those kind of courses at the age of 12. I already had those things and was moving forward. So it was looking as to how you would move with your finances. So those kind of classes we didn't have here at that age, but we were starting them over in England. So it is systematic, but I would say that is definitely something that's a little bit more prone to be over here.
Right.
And then not knowing the amount of time in which I would eventually spend in college, it wasn't until I was in my sophomore year of college that I realized that the professor who was there up front teaching me, if I continued to do what he was telling me, which is read these particular pages, I would never learn what I needed to learn to get myself ahead. And he wasn't going to teach me how to be wealthier than him. So at that point, I said, no, something's wrong with this picture. I am already in my spare time, what I'm doing, installing alarm systems, I'm already making more than you. This doesn't make any sense. So right at that point, I said, no, this is not for me. And I left. The funny thing is that once I left, my mother gave me the typical speech you would expect. Oh, that's it. You're not going to amount to nothing. You got to get your degree. I'm going to tell your father. At that point, I didn't. So I actually bolded up and said, all right, respectfully, okay, tell him. Well, the response I got from my father at that point was, it was actually mind blowing. He said, well, I just didn't want to tell you, but now you see for yourself, not knowing that he actually did the same thing. So our thing was not the college bound right away. It was more, my family is from a rich, we were dealt with electrical stores, carpentry, which up to now, we still make woodwork that travels around the world. I didn't know this. So if I had the same teaching of the other suasion, I know for a fact it will be multiple millions.
You know what? On top of that, Alan, what about the fact, and Jay, you alluded to this also, starting from young. A lot of times we don't know how to utilize debt, how to actually leverage the debt. You know, someone like Dave Ramsey, he teaches, you know, not to have any debt. But if you don't have any debt at all, if you don't, you have to learn how to leverage your debt, right? Because it's ironic, right? This is the system that we live in. To get a house, you have to prove that you've been able to carry debt and pay that debt off, right? Or else you won't be able to get that house until you have enough money to buy it cash, right? But utilizing credit cards the right way, right? There's a right way and there's a wrong way to utilize credit card. There's a right way and a wrong way, to utilize your car note, right? By not paying late, by not so some of these things that we're not taught to cherish your credit score, right? Co-signing, you have a friend that needs a car, or they need something, and you co-sign for that person. A lot of people don't understand that co-signing means that you are actually responsible for that debt also. It's going to show up on your credit report. So you have to now say that I trust that friend. Parents, listen up, parents. I'm talking to you also. When you're signing something for your children, right? When you're signing student loan, right? If you're borrowing money for your kid's student, for them to go to school, if anything happens, God forbid, anything at all happens to that child, they pass away, or they're incapacitated and they're no longer able to pay the debt off, you are actually still responsible for the debt. When it comes to student loans, if I borrow money myself, the debt dies with the debtor. But if my parents, or if you as a parent, you co-sign on that loan, you are actually still responsible for that loan. So these are things that we don't understand, and we're not taught about how to use debt in the right way. And also, like I was saying, guys, you have to cherish your credit score. Now, in terms of credit score, Jay and Alan, I know you guys, Jay, you help people with starting businesses and also help them to develop their business. How does having a good credit score affect your ability to grow and scale your business?
I mean, listen, a lot of people don't have capital. Business loans are amazing. You typically get those with, good credit scores. Just the principle of learning, like you said, the concept of credit. And, there's, like you said, there's good credit and bad credit. Lease a car is typically good credit. Most people don't like it because it's a monthly tab, connected to it. But on a bigger scale, it's deemed as good credit because it's a large amount of money that you're paying on time. Little things like that, people don't know. You know what I mean? Like if you're starting a business, you can start from scratch. You have to be willing to put the work in. You still have to build credit though. And credit starts small. It starts from a gas card. It starts from little things, a dinner. You got a $500 credit card and you just pay dinner. It's a business account, whatever, a business dinner, stuff like that. There's little things that, for me personally, that's how I got to, that's what I did. I started with, and like, it's probably a little outdated, but it worked. It worked. I started, saving, getting these cards and not just, if you don't have it, this is an old saying, if you can't buy it twice, you shouldn't buy it once. You know what I'm saying? And I learned that at a young age. Well, I learned that at a very young age. And that was through trial and error. Like I said about that Macy's card, my sister took that Macy's card and she went shopping. And I paid for that later on because I didn't understand how to pay it on time and in the minimum. I didn't understand none of that stuff until years later. But, it'll affect you because it lasts a long time. It'll affect you. And if you don't know the steps on going backwards, you're going to keep going forward the same way, which is a circle. Right. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
So have you heard of a thing called a savings account that was called mattress savings?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, when I look back at it now, I said, man, we took it for granted back then. Anytime we needed something, grandma always went to that mattress. And it was
or this.
Yeah, there was always something there. So as I grew older, I mean, I looked at things and I said, wow, I would have to say to my dad, God rest his soul, he never had a credit card at all. But when he passed, he left something pretty nice. But what he did do was, he did the only bill he really had, which was a mortgage. But it's a hard worker and a good saver, excellent provider. So what I learned from that at this age is that I noticed that when I was in college, same thing as you said well earlier, when I was in college and I got my first credit card, they came on the campus, Rutgers.
Right.
They came on the campus and they gave us that little package. And in that package, boom, it was your first credit card. You could do one, like, you're sure? Oh yeah, it's a regular card. You can go ahead and spend it. What I did, I went and I got a pair of sneakers just to start establishing credit. So I actually hid it from my mother because I know that she would have an uproar about it. But what I didn't do, and now looking back, other people, I use that term loosely, other people took that and they purchased copier machines. They purchased paper. They purchased computers amongst the small group of them. And then they started to do resumes. And then they would come and do your resume. So well, not me personally, but us being lazy, hey, I can get them to do the resume. They would do the resume and they would charge you for it. Where did their little stimulus money go? Into creating a business. Wow. Mine went into clothes and stuff and things like that. So the key advice I would give any young person that's watching, even old, you would want to hear this, definitely. If you're going to use credit cards, use them towards starting your business in any which way, shape, or form. The clothes will always be there. Cars will always be there. All these other these fancy looking things, they'll always be there. But use those cards to put aside to get something that's going to make you money. And do not be afraid to put pen to paper and write down what the cost of what you're going to purchase and what the return on it will be.
Right. You know, long term, right? Long term, this isn't advocating that you stay in debt, because when, anything that we talk about, let's talk about what does the Bible say about debt, right? Here's what the Bible says, Proverbs 22:7. It says that the rich rules over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender, right? Mm-hmm. So that means that if you don't utilize your credit in the right way, if you don't utilize borrowing and leveraging, right, instead of leverage your money in the right way, that way long term, you'll be able to have money saved up, and you'll be able to have that credit score, that great credit score, that you can go buy the things that you want. You may want an investment property. The bank isn't going to give you that home. They're not going to give you an investment property. They're not going to give you the things that you desire if you haven't shown that, you were faithful in small things, right? The Bible says if you be faithful in small things, God will give you big things. Guess what the bank is saying also? The bank is saying, when they look at your credit score, Mr. 550, you weren't faithful in the small things, right? You weren't. You had this $300 Capital One card that you had there, and you weren't able to utilize that the right way. Why do you think I would give you $100,000? Why do you think I would let you, run off with this mortgage? No. So we got to be faithful. We got to be faithful and storeful with the small things that we have. So let's jump into this other hot button topic, right? The next hot button topic.
Can I ask you something on that? Because you do have a situation where you've done mattress savings and then you decide you want to borrow some money, but they won't allow you because you don't have the years behind you. You do have you've been responsible because you've gotten really good, but you don't have that. So they say that, well, you don't have delinquent. You don't have enough time in the game.
Right.
So now you have to establish something where you have to go down to small monthly payments and make these on a regular basis. And I got into that at one point where I kept paying off cards. They said, no, you're damaging your credit.
Right. So
it's the whole you need ID to get ID.
Yeah. So one of the things I tell my clients to do in that situation, guys, is I show them how to, you can start so with the mattress savings, right? Let's say you've been able to save $10,000, under the mattress. You can take 5,000 of that or 3,000 of that, right? And you start something called a secure card. That means you are borrowing money from yourself. You borrow the money from yourself. You're secure. You're basically securing your own loan. You have that. You give a company or a bank. It's great to do with credit union, because a lot of times the interest rates are really low. So what's going to happen is you're going to give that company your $3,000. They're going to put it in an account, and then they're going to give you a credit limit of $3,000. Now, what you do, you make purchases and you just pay the money back to yourself. You're paying the money back. The worst case scenario, if you ever get to the place where you can no longer pay, they have the money there, right? So you'll never be in debt because you've already had the money to secure the loan. And also, a lot of times, if you have saved that way, some companies will give you money based on the amount of money that you have saved. But the best way to do it is, have a secured card, establish, show that it's when you're borrowing money, what they want to see that you have a pattern. It's almost like when you're going to get into a relationship, right? If you're going to get into a relationship, it has to be some consistency. Alan, you can't bring your wife flowers. You started out bringing her flowers every single week, and then you drop off. Guess what she'll say? That you're not consistent, right? So the lenders, a lot of times, what they want to see a pattern of consistency. That way, they'll know that they can trust you.
And the other end of that, Ruel, is most people don't know. Like you said, 3,000. I know people that they went away for a little while. They came home, trying to get back, in society, and they started with a $200 card. Went right. Secured card, $200. Same scenario. It's like you said, it's a bank account. They started it, and that increase in most cases will happen shorter than longer. I'm talking about 3 to 6 months. They might say, hey, now you've been consistent for 3 to 6 months. Hey, now you can get this, secured card or unsecured card rather,
Right.
So it goes from that scale of 3,000 to 200 even.
Right. So another area that we see a great disparity in this country, guys, is in terms of home ownership, right? Where you have over 73% of white Americans, right? And 73% of white Americans own their own home, right? You have 65% of Americans actually own their own homes. In the Black community, it's only 44%. And that number was actually home ownership in the 70s in the Black community was a lot higher than it is now, right? I don't know, what caused that, what caused the change. I know I could assume, in my hypothesis, could be the fact that the Black families have been broken, right? And when you break the nucleus of the family, now the home ownership goes, because now you don't have two incomes coming in anymore. So Alan, I know you deal with this. I know we've talked many times about driving through various neighborhoods, and you see certain people, going into those neighborhoods. I drive through East Orange and Newark all the time, and I see one thing. I see Black Suburbans with New York city license plates or New York State license plates, right? Looking at property in lower income communities, and the people that are looking at these properties, they don't look like us. So why, Alan, I know you could talk about this because this is something that you've schooled me on. People that I know that you've mentored told me that you've done a great deal to help them out in these areas.
All right. I'm going to say it just skating, but try to look a little deeper than what I'm actually saying here. A typical, let's just say a typical Black family right now will, on a Saturday, let's say you go to church, you finish with church, and evening sets in. We used to have AY. Nowadays, we really don't have AY. But Saturday, whatever you're doing, you may throw a party, a house party. Shouldn't be a club, but if in case it is, okay, all right. Well, whatever we're doing that Saturday night, we're doing it. And as Black people, we do everything above and beyond. Right. So that means Saturday night, by the time 1, 2 o'clock, we're all knocked out. We're fast asleep because we're tired from having so much fun. Whatever the fun was, we're tired. Sunday morning comes. And what are we doing? We're sleeping late because we feel entitled to that sleep. Well, Sunday morning, The other Sabbath keepers have gotten up because they're well rested. They've gotten up and they are starting to look for properties. Right while you're sleeping, the roads are completely empty. You will not see them. So they're going to go to all the houses and look and look and look and look. Monday morning, when you're now getting dressed to go to your 9 to 5, they are now down at City Hall with that list, seeing what they're going to purchase cash. And because they're coming as groups, they will get it a lot cheaper than you who have lived there inside of that neighborhood, known Mrs. Jones from the time you moved there. Mrs. Jones has passed on. You cannot purchase her house, even though you've been looking at it right across the street from you. But that is systematic behavior that we need to change.
Jay, piggyback on that. Why do you think, right? What do you think is the actual root cause of us not wanting to be, let me not say not wanting to, because I think it's every American's dream, regardless of race, to own their own home, and have property. But what's the reason? What would you say the reason is that there's over a 20%, right, difference compared to white Americans, and over a 20% compared to all Americans?
I mean, like I said before, I think most of this stuff, and I don't want to keep saying, education, because we're living for the first time in history through evolution. We're doing so much more, and us, in particular, we know because we out there hitting the pavement, So there's a lot of people that just don't. I think a lot of people are just frozen and they're stuck mentally. I think a lot of fear plays into that factor. I have a brother. My brother, he does really well. My brother saves like 20 grand a year. He doesn't invest in anything. We're going to talk about that, right? But God bless him. But and I'm saying this, but there's a sense of fear. Like, I don't know, because to make that decision, we're making that small decision a big decision. Where, like you were saying, Al, like, people do this every day. Somewhere every day, somebody's doing this all the time. We're not in that mental state to say this is normal. We're not normalizing buying property. We're not normalizing owning a home. We're not normalizing whatever else, the Airbnbs, whatever it is. We're not normalizing that. And it's a sense of fear. And typically, in most cases, I want to say 80% of the time, we tend to partner up with people that don't look like us. And I'm not knocking that. Right. It's just, for whatever reason, that person that doesn't understand the plight that we've been through and the struggle and the pain, and they don't even have to be dressed better than us. I'm going to listen to that person, because, Ruel, I grew up with you. You down the street. You got a PhD, an ABC, a QR. You got all of these things behind your name, but you're just Ruel, right? You know what I mean? And I think it's just us as people. We're the most forgiving people in the universe, but we're also the most afraid, if that makes sense. And that doesn't mean all of us. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean all. It just means that it's more of us doing the same thing, which is the telltale sign that we need to shift that and change that. I think it's just a lot of fear involved,
And, guys, and what you got also, when we talk about the debt, right? When you talk about the debt in terms of student loan debt, one of the reasons, and we could go back to redlining. And if you don't know what redlining is, it's back in the day, home ownership was given to individuals based on where they were living, and Black Americans were deliberately left out, and they were actually zoned out of getting homes through the federal government, through the federal programs, right? And here's what that did, right? 30 years later, or let's say you have a child, 18 years later, right? Your child's now ready to go to college. You bought a house, for back then, let's say 30,000, right? Because the homes were practically being given away. You bought a house for 30,000. Now, 18 years later, that home is appreciated for, let's say, 200,000. You're now able to refinance that house, right? You're able to refinance that house, and you refinance the house. Even if you bought it for 30, you refi for college tuition, right? So if college tuition was 50,000, you now refinance the house for 80,000, right? Now you got 50,000 that you can tax free also, right? If you guys don't know, because now it's tax free money that they were now able to give their children, right? You're now able to give your child pay their college tuition. You didn't have to pay taxes on that money. Mom and dad just rolled that money into their mortgage, right? And now when you graduate, you have no debt. You have no debt at all. So here's what that does, right? You come out of school with no debt. A few things that does. One, it gives you the mental capacity to it gives you the ability to take your time and look for the right job, right? You can now say, you know what, you're not begging for a job. You're not taking the first thing that comes, right? Because you know you're coming out of school with no debt. The next thing that happens is the fact that when you now find a job, right? You can now go get a home because you don't have any debt. You don't have that large debt, or you don't have that large student loan debt. So you see how quick generational wealth is created? That's right. So quick generational wealth, because now you come out of school, you can now go purchase a home, right? And that cycle it becomes a repetitive cycle where we're coming out, we have debt. So here's what happens. We know that as soon as we come out of college, right, in what I think they say in about 6 to 12 months, you have to start paying the loan back, right? So here's what you're gonna go do. Al, you got a bachelor's degree in business or finance or sociology or whatever it is. One or two things. If you can't find a job, you know what you'll do? You're gonna rush back to school to get a master's degree. So you're gonna take on more debt because psychologically you're now saying to yourself, "Hey, I'm not good enough." So you go get more debt. Next, you come out with the master's, you still can't find a job. Here's what you then do. You know what? I got to start paying this loan back. What then happens is this. I'm just going to go take any job. Now you're working at Kroger, or you're working at Walmart, or you're working as a security guard, or you're working as a CNA because you just rushed to find something, or you gave that up and you started doing real estate. You know, it has nothing to do with what's on what you went to school for. So now you put that on your resume. You know what you just did? You're no longer marketable. You're no longer, like, people don't understand.
Because you lost the experience time, Rue.
Absolutely. Right. So the mere fact that these things aren't being taught, man, I don't know. It's been
real fast, Rue, what you're talking about, Redline, is a movie called The Banker that depicts amazing. It's a really good movie. It's called The Banker. And it shows the true story, a really good movie too, about Redlining, how it started and how they kind of beat it then,
I could go on and on about this topic alone, but I can't believe it's actually 45 minutes. We've been on here for over 45 minutes. Guys, but we gotta continue this conversation. And just so you know, right, if you're watching, we have the Stewardship Committee. They're going to be doing, starting on the 25th, they're going to be doing a month-long discussion on finances, on saving, investing, and so on and so forth. Two things I want to cover before we run out of time is I want to talk about business ownership, right? I know since the pandemic started, I see there's been a push for Black business ownership. Jay, I know you help individuals in this area. But so here's another alarming statistic, right? Compared to our counterparts, right? Compared to our white, Latino, and Asian counterparts, right? We actually have the lowest, the one of the lowest, right? Because we're percentage when it comes to business ownership. In terms of Caucasians, 72%, right? 72% more likely to own their own business, where we are only about 6%, right? Only 6% of Black Americans own their own businesses, right? Jay, I know you help people in these areas. Talk to the people right quick. Talk to us about the disparity that you see, and why do you think that there's such a large difference?
Wow, Rue, that's a good question. I really think it boils down to a couple of things. One, discipline. discipline is crucial in anything. You know, somebody said the other day, when you're doing something, when you're an entrepreneur, you gotta get comfortable with doing the same thing every day and be excited. It's such a hard thing to do. Like I'm talking about, you know, you see them on these great athletes and stuff like that. It's discipline and, you know, shooting that free throw every day, you know, game or no game. It's the free throws, the, you know, monotony of doing it. And from my experience, I realized when I sit down with people, they have dreams. They don't necessarily have a plan. You know, dream is something that sounds good, you know, but when you put it to paper and you get the pros and the cons, it becomes a reality. And then the main component is, are you willing to do the work without the income? Because you can't get nothing without the work, you know? And I find it amazing because people go to a 9 to 5 and they trust the system. Like, you're going to pay me, Ruel, $800, a promissory note that I signed this contract to work with you. I'm not going to get paid for 2 weeks, but I trust you.
Right.
And people believe that so much.
Right.
Like, once you trust you, you know what I mean? Like, fail or succeed, I'd rather trust me. Because what if that company goes out of business day 13 before you get paid? They're not going to pay
pandemic,
you. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. And so I think that's a part of it. Like, I talked to a lot of people, man, that have these ideas, and I love. But the question I ask them, what are you willing to do to make it happen? Mm-hmm. That's when it gets quiet. Mm-hmm. Because I ask them, put everything on the table. They put it out there, and then I give them my version of it, and it's completely different. It's the whole, you know, tell me your dream, and then tell me your plan, and I'll tell you God's plan. I bet you don't match. And I'm not God. Don't get it twisted. But it's just one of those things that people don't plan, and when they do plan, they don't plan properly. Right. Especially our people, we are the trendsetters, and I'm sounding that way because it's the truth. Anything in this world culturally was affected. Our fingerprint is on it. Right. So we're afraid to take it to the next level. So I think that's major. You know, one of the major things.
Well,
I'm gonna take it. You know, once again, I'm gonna go left wing on that because he covered it right just perfectly. So I'm gonna go on this. There is something that we call our mental capacity, and as Jay said before, it was profound, but I don't know if you know as how profound it is. We have this thing that we call faith, and we tend to use words that sound good, but we don't. The first thing is, I could go to any Bible-bearing, Christian-believing family, church, or whatever, and I could say, I'm a child of the King, and everybody's going to jump up and say, yes, you're a child of the King. Well, guess what? If I'm a child of the King, that means I have royalty. Okay, so if you have royalty and you know this, it's in the word, it says that we are created to be the lenders, not the borrowers. So parents, pay attention to this. If you're a child of the King and you are created to be the lender and not the borrower. So what we have to do now is to pour this into our children, pour this into our communities. And when you start to become that lender, be cognizant as to who you are lending to and why you are lending and what you are lending. Right. Now, there's a text in Romans that speaks about we are to bear, the stronger ones are to bear the weaker ones' infirmity. Don't ask me where it is because I don't know the Bible like that. All I can say is, as my dear friend used to say, it is written. So the weaker ones, they can depend on the stronger ones financially, spiritually, to bring everybody up to one level. But it's a mentality where we go and we say, okay, well, I've got it. I worked hard and blood, sweat, and tears. Now you got to go do the same thing. That's not always, it's not always true. If you know that you're a child of the King and you know that you're created to be a lender and a borrower, put it on paper. Right. Write it down. If you know that your child, like right now, I know that both of my children want to be veterinarians. I've already been pouring it into them for over 4 years since they told me, pouring it into them. We have a dog, we have turtles, we have animals, but I'm pouring in. And I also told them, you are leaders, not followers. You will be the lenders, not the borrowers. This is already being poured into them. I make sure ever so often they have to do something pertaining to what they want to do. That means I am in real estate. I'm not going to have you go into a veterinary practice where you don't own the building. You have to own that building.
Right.
And in order for me to be able to accomplish that, I've also not got to pour that into them, but I've got to pour it into their peers. So anybody who comes to my house, you better be on the up and up. But that is me building. I'm not just building what's going on in my house. I have to be a community builder. That means when I walk the dog, I have to say good morning to everybody. I got to be about empowering people. If I cannot empower you, then guess what? The way you go down may be the way my family goes down too. So we have to just think about it. We're all children of the King. We are created to be the lenders and not the borrowers. And when you see the weaker as a stronger, help. Be ready to help. As you help somebody, giving them advice, giving them information, you are, repetition deepens the impression. You're building what you know, and you're practicing it, and you're doing it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And listen, and one thing that you just said, we're a child of the King, right? And if you think about being a child of the King in faith, the King has dominion, right? King has dominion, right? And God put us here, right? And God put us here to have dominion over this earth, right? That's why we were created higher than the angels, right? So if you don't have dominion, if you don't have ownership in anything, then you are not representing the King, right? You're not a true representative of the King if you're not going out there to get the dominion and reclaim those things that you're in. And it starts through business ownership, right? It starts through, and it also take a leap of faith. I think one of the things that the church should do, the church should talk to people. And I know Brother Gross told me that this is one of the things that the church is going to start talking to people about. Go out there. Listen, this last year during the pandemic, right? We had a lot of time. We had a lot of time on our hands. One of the things, I picked up something new. I picked up something new just on YouTube. I learned how to, I got into this thing called cryptocurrency. I never heard about it before. I got into it, and I learned it, and I actually surprised myself on how well, and this is not to endorse, guys. This is not to endorse, what I do. I'm just giving my experience. I went to school. I did a bachelor's, master's, and a PhD, right? Yesterday was 7 years. Yesterday made 7 years, right? 7 years that I left. I burnt my PhD, right? Why? Because I couldn't deal with the fact that I was going to a job and feel underappreciated, and I left my job, and I haven't looked back. It was 7 years since someone has been able to tell me when to come and when to go. And the freedom that I like about it is, being able to go where you want, when you want, and not have a boss. Do I still have responsibilities? Absolutely. We all still have responsibility. And it doesn't mean, and I think one of the things that people don't understand is being in business for yourself means that you're gonna work harder, right? But you're working for yourself. It's gonna be far more rewarding, when you work for yourself, right? And when you're working for yourself, it doesn't feel like work. And one of the things that we do, one of the things I do is I sit with people, Jay and Al, we sit with people, talk to them about how to put together financial game plans for themselves. And one of the areas that we see a large disparity is when it comes to retirement, right? This is one of the largest areas that we see a big disparity. And when it comes to retirement, right? White families, they have on average, about $80,000, right, when it comes to saving for retirement. Whereas in Black families, we only have close to about $30,000 saved for retirement. $30,000, right? And a lot of times, we're waiting on Social Security. We're waiting on Social Security. We're waiting on the man, waiting on the government to come save us. And this is not, guys, we can't depend on this. We have to be able to depend on ourselves. Jay, I know you alluded to this a little earlier is about your brother, right? Your brother saves money, right? There's a difference, and there's a big difference between saving money. You can't save for retirement.
Right.
You have to invest for retirement.
Mhm.
And right, you can't.
He's losing so much money by saving.
Right. You'll lose money by saving. You have to invest money for retirement. And the reason why is because, one, we already know inflation, right? And guys, this is biblical. When you look in the Bible, Jesus talks about saving money for that rainy day, saving money,
The talents.
right? Putting those talents to work. Right? And we gotta be able to save and invest money. And one of the reasons why we don't do that is the fact that, one, there's a lack of trust, right? There's a lack of trust in our community, right? And is it understandable? Yes, I think that it's understandable, but it's not an excuse. Some of the things that we've gone through, with the system, and a lot of times the things that we hear on the news. But at the same time, when you look at the masses and when you look at what others have been able to do by investing for retirement, and we can look at what's out there, right? And so that's one of the reasons we don't invest. Another thing is the fact that we don't have people that actually can sit and talk to us and show us how to now invest the right way, right? A lot of people start, one of the things that we saw recently was, everyone started stock trading for themselves. A lot of people are losing money, and a lot of people hear the bad stories. They don't ever hear the success stories. So that we know bad news spread fast. What do when one person start running? What we all do?
We run.
We all run, right?
We run.
We all run. And that bad news causes a lot of times that bad news tend to cause the rest of us to start running and not actually get the information for ourselves. So talk to us about that, guys.
Good, Al, you got this one.
I'll tell you, I tell you, God is just so good. When we look at our ending financial picture when it comes to retirement, if you don't have a nice nest egg set aside, then you have to think about what is the quality of life. Are you really gonna, if you have insurance or these other things, are you really gonna give that money away to a nursing home or to the town? Something as simple as creating a will. Where do you want your money to go? But all this thing, it's just basically boils down to you still got to put a pen to paper, and you got to be open. And you have to be willing, as you could see, you got three brothers right in front of you who know their stuff when it comes to finances. And either we learn because of through our own experiences, or we look to somebody else's and we learn from theirs. But the fact of the matter is, do not feel ashamed to reach out to somebody and talk.
Right.
You don't have to join anything that we're part of. Just talk. It should be an open conversation. I put myself out there openly. For those who have my number, you have a way of getting my number. It's not a problem. Give us a call. Talk with us. If you don't do anything with us, that's fine. But at least we can steer you in the right direction. So now you cannot say that, well, I didn't know. Now you know. You have people that you can talk to. No judgment. It's just talk. And then we see where you go from there. But we have to get into open communication and be able to talk about your finances, where you want to be. Where do you see yourself in 5 years, in 10 years? But if you don't put it down on paper, it's just a dream.
And the piggyback. I'm sorry.
I was going to ask you, what about Jay? You could jump in. What do you think to add to that about people who say it's too late?
Well, a coffin is too late. I just lost my dad in January, and there's an old Negro spiritual that says when you lose your parents, you finally grow up, right? So you make fun of it a little bit, but it's never too late. When you say it's too late, like you said, it's more about a mental. We're not mentally strong as we should be. we had a free 2 years to go be great, or year to be great, to go do something special. God slowed down the earth for us. Woo! For those that were struggling, he slowed it down. Literally slowed it down. And I'm not soliciting anything either. I know what I know. And if all you know is what you don't know enough. Right? And so when it comes to like you said, planning for the future and stuff like that, if you don't even know what that number looks like, don't be afraid of that, because we're getting there. Look, you see this happened in the pandemic. All this gray hair. I was looking like this a while ago, So it's like, just like that, life happens. Like I said, you lose people, and a lot of people lost their life to, everything that's going on. And it's like, you have to get a number, and you have to set it. I know the goal is so far for people. Set a milestone first.
Right.
You set milestone. It's like Candyland. Remember Candyland? You go, you get there. But most people just got to, like you said, put the pen to the paper and say, what does it look like? Like you said, $30,000. You wouldn't take a job taking $30,000 today. Why would you be okay with retiring on that?
Oh.
Like, why is that okay? Mm-hmm. If you don't got $10,000, and I'm not knocking anybody. I got a picture that I keep to show people, 83 cents. That was in my account at one point. And I remind myself of and it was being irresponsible, but still, it reminds me to never go there.
Right.
Never go there. So if you're okay with, people just love saying no, it's cultures. No. Sit down with, like you said, any of us for information. You don't have to do nothing we do, but I can guarantee you this: if you talk to any of us, you will walk away smarter. Knowledge is not the key; it's the application of knowledge.
Right.
Because you got a lot of smart, not smart people, right? They know everything and did everything, but never went nowhere. No stamps on the passport, but they got a picture of every place in the world, every map on the world. You know what I'm saying? Never went to New Jersey or New York, right, Guru? But that's my part of that.
But think about it. I just learned during the pandemic, I was actually sitting down, and what I started to do is I wake up an hour earlier. Every morning, I'm up by 6 o'clock. But I started to read, and I started to check out a few things. And it was funny that, I don't know if it's coincidental, but it's funny that I read that a lot of the millionaires actually became millionaires in their early 50s. I thought it was 20 years old, 30 years. No, it does happen at those ages, but the real solid millionaires that don't end up losing their money, they actually gained it in their 50s. And I have been pushing ever since. But the good thing about being down, if you're here, what happens? You can only rise.
Stop looking at the mud and look at this light.
Right.
Being down has its benefits. It really does.
Absolutely.
You just got to take advantage of it.
But you said something real crucial there, Jay, when you said the God slowed the earth down for a year for us, right? And during that time, it gave every single person an opportunity to pick up a new skill, learn something new. And it actually should have showed us, one, tomorrow's not promised. Two, that job's not promised, because a lot of those went out of business, right? And three, we never know what the government's going to do. We never know.
And Rue, we're smarter. We're smarter than our ancestors.
Right.
We're so smarter. Like our kids are smarter. Right. So why wouldn't you take something and run with it? I've known so many, Rue, we know people that became millionaires in the pandemic.
Right.
Millionaires.
That's factual.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars in the last 12 months.
Right.
And now you don't have no excuses, because you're probably home right now.
Right.
What's your excuse? Effort?
Right.
You gotta look in that mirror. And I told my brother yesterday, stop looking in the mirror and taking glances. Stare. Stare at yourself. Love yourself and say, I'm better and I'm gonna do better. Every day you gotta challenge yourself to do something different, man. I'm telling you, we never experienced the world slowing down. We read that stuff in the Bible. The world, did you see California was no smog? Oh my gosh, the world, animals running crazy. We living in a real evolution time. And God's not whispering, he's yelling. And people, they could turn the blind eye if they want to, but you got to come out of this better. And I'm not talking about feeling better. You got to come out of this with a skill. You got to come out with something that we're servants, right? We're here to give. You got to come out here giving to everybody. Yes. You have to. That me don't work. You had me time to work on yourself. And this, the 2021, you put it in play.
Right.
That's it. You know?
Last but not least, guys, because I can't believe it's been an hour already. We're gonna close it off with this about leaving wealth, right? And the wealth disparity, and the generational wealth disparity that exists, and what we're able to leave to the future, where you have white families, right? They leave on average about 900,000, right? 900,000 to their future generations, compared to us, where we only leave about 24,000, right? And one of the areas that I work in it's in life insurance, and I see this, the biggest disparity in life insurance, because people don't understand the importance of it. One, I know in our family, in our culture, especially the West Indian culture. This is, you have the Black culture, and you have the Black American culture. Then you got the West Indian culture, and then in the West Indian culture, life insurance is like a taboo thing. Somebody gonna do you some. You don't want. I don't want. I've heard family members of mine said, I don't want these kids getting nothing when I'm gone. I don't want nobody to kill me for the life insurance money. These are some of the things that we hear. And during this pandemic, guys, we have over 1 million people in this country alone. Worldwide, we have over 1 million. But in this country alone, over 500,000 people that died just like that. Families not knowing, that they're not knowing. You went to Walmart, you went to the grocery store, you went out to eat, somebody coughed, and now because they coughed, you're dead, right? And you didn't leave, there was no will left in place. There's no, we didn't have enough time to save money. So because of that, there's no money left. So there's no, and then there's no inheritance. So the fastest way I teach people, the fastest way that you can leave an inheritance is by making sure that you have life insurance, right? And not any life insurance. You gotta have the right type of life insurance. And if you don't have the right type of life insurance, because there's some life insurance company that all they want to do is they just want to take your money. They're not going to teach you anything, right? They're not going to teach you how to make sure that you're leaving generational wealth. What do I mean by that? Is making sure that you have, for example, if you make $100,000 a year, right? If you make $100,000 a year and you have young children, you shouldn't have $10,000 worth of life insurance, right? You should have enough money to that you could replace your income at least 7 to 10 years, at least 7 to 10 years. So you should have at least 7 to 10 times of the life insurance, and not just the one at work. You should have life insurance outside of work, right? Because if you get sick, that life insurance is not going to go with you. So these are the quickest ways that you could leave an inheritance. Another thing, you shouldn't have any life insurance that they tell you that you could borrow money from. And life insurance isn't an investment, right? It's not an investment. You should invest, and you can have life insurance that they're completely separate, right? And I know you guys understand the importance of that, and also have a will, right? You got to have a will. Our families, they don't have a will. So here's what happens also, Alan. I've seen this with some people that I've coached. They don't have a will. If they don't have a will, right? Let's say any money that's left, it gets tied up in probate. Then you got to get a lawyer. Then you got to pay lawyer fees. So by the time you're able to get into that money, it's either 33% less because it's tied up in paying lawyer fees, or there's nothing left at all because a will wasn't left in place, right? And Alan and Jay, I know you guys deal with individuals who do and don't have wills, and talk to the people right quick as we end off why it's so important to leaving something for their future generations.
It is very important to leave. The way that I have it in my mind, I know that what I'm building, more than likely, I will not get a chance to enjoy it the way my children will. So bear in mind that whatever you're doing right now is really not for you. It's for your children. And you do it for that reason. But you make sure that when you pass and you pass on, make sure that you have all your documents in place so it gets handed directly to them. So if you got to go and do a little research to make sure that you got to take care of the ones that don't live underneath your house, but make sure, yes, seriously, make sure that you document everything for
Right.
your children, for those that live on after you. You can't be selfish about it. What we are doing now, it actually is for them. They should be your wives. And
That's
don't forget, if your wife outlives you too, it has to be for her too.
definitely. You gotta throw that one in there. I mean, that's powerful, and it's the truth, man. We're not here for us. And you know, especially things like I said, I recently lost my dad and stuff like that. And my mom passed away, 21 years ago. When she passed, we had $25,000 between five of us. Now, we didn't, obviously then we wasn't financially educated, but it was like I had a sense of when that 5,000 that I had, once that last dollar was spent, it was almost like she was gone.
Oh,
and it just wasn't enough to
God,
magnify her life for me,
Mm-hmm.
And I only had it for 24 years. So in my mind, in Rue, I had any financial education at that point, but I knew in my gut it felt wrong to only have $5,000, and it wasn't about just bag. It wasn't getting the money. It just was like, that's it. Like she was only worth that, and she did the best she could. Look at somebody like Master P. He became a millionaire because his grandfather left him away in a will. He was in his life insurance policy. He started his whole, and he always talks about that. And, like you were saying, from my last experience, when it come to passing away, make sure your stuff is situated where they know where to go. It's no, you don't have to call people. It's that box up there. My key is there. That paperwork is there. We have to get comfortable talking to these kids about us, about us, potentially not being here, about planning for the future. Like same way you talk about talking to your kids now, like, you have to talk to everybody the same way. Make it a water cooler conversation. Let's go to lunch and talk about this stuff. It has to be so obvious that it's so real that it's unreal. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But it becomes normal though. Right. And like you said, leaving them is for them to start, because like I said, this is the craziest thing. What's your purpose of living if your kids don't, like, somebody told me one time, Rue, you might have heard this before, who's your great grandfather?
I was going to say the same thing.
And I was like, I don't know, because he didn't do nothing.
Right.
Exactly. So I want to be the mantle from my great, beyond, to say he started it. Like, I'm the first generational wealth for my family. I embrace it. I own it. My son is going to be the second wave. And in the same process, everything, if you come near me, I'm grabbing you to give you this energy. I don't need you to do what I'm doing, but you will be smarter. Right. You
know what? You're absolutely, Jay, when you hear the names like the Rockefellers, right? The Morgans, the Kennedys, right? Why is it that generational, hundreds of years later, we still hear, we know those names, right? Because they did something massive. And what we could do is we have to start that by, leaving something for our children and our grandchildren, right? And the fastest way you could do that is by leaving some life insurance, guys. So man, this was a great hour. I love this. I want to end with this, man. Proverbs 10:4 says this: lazy hands make poverty, but diligent hands bring wealth, right? And I'll I'm not a biblical scholar, but in this day, right, in this day and age, right, because that was, in the biblical day, because it's hard work, labor, right? In this day and age, I can say this. I can change that to say lazy minds make poverty, but diligent minds bring wealth. You gotta be diligent, right? You gotta be mentally diligent, and you gotta put that to work, right? And we have to be able to put the things that we learn to work, sit down, create a plan. If you have an idea, put that idea together with your family, friends, and loved ones, and talk to people, right? Talk to someone. If you know there's something that you want to accomplish, talk to someone who's gone there or who's done that, or someone in that area that's a coach. I want to thank you guys so much, and from the men's ministries of the Church of the Oranges. You know, we are located at 270 Reynolds Terrace in Orange, New Jersey. Jay Oliver. Jay, tell people how they can reach you if they, I know you help people start businesses. I know you help people also scale their business and take it to the next level. Tell people how they can reach you.
Well, you can contact me directly through my cell. That's the best way to get me. It's 917-400-2878. It's Jay Oliver, 917-400-2878.
And Alan, I know you're Mr. Real Estate. Listen, I can't. I remember I was talking to this police officer guy, and what he said, he told me he had about, I think it was 17 properties in his portfolio, and he said the only reason he was able to get that was because of Alan, because of the things Alan taught him. You know, he said everything Alan taught him, he did it, and now he has a portfolio of so many properties. So Alan, so talk to people.
He took the vaccine.
You there, Rue?
I'm here, but I don't know. He took the vaccine.
Okay. It's probably in Texas or something.
Let me see. Might not get it locked up.
Yeah.
Okay, so my contact information, of course, it's I'll give you the number, 973-454-3706. That's like public info now because you know, I do the DJ and I do the sound engineering and the real estate and a little bit of everything. I don't stay still until it's time for bed. All right, so Jay already gave you his info. I just gave you mine. And if you need anything else, like he said, reach out to us over here at COTO, www.cotosda, and our information is up on there. And one way, shape, or form, we are always in contact with each other. So if you want to speak to me directly, or if you want to speak to Jay, you can call me, and I have no problems getting you over to Jay. Jay has no problems getting you over to Ruel, whichever means or whichever way you need. All right, but we're here for you, and we don't see Ruel coming back.
Oh, there you go.
There he goes.
You got you, Rue.
I don't know what happened, but you know what? I was just wrapping it up. I was saying, Alan, just tell people how they can reach you. Did you give the information yet?
Yeah, I just gave that in the closing speech.
Okay, good. All right, good. Thank you, guys. Listen, on behalf of the men's ministries of the Church of the Oranges, just stay tuned. During the month of March, the church, we have a lot of great things coming. We'll be doing weekly financial talks, I think starting the 25th. So stay on the lookout for that. Everyone have a blessed and a restful Sabbath day. Peace.
Take care.